Welcome to another jam-packed episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important news from the sports card hobby. We'll have some debates, opinions, new release schedules, and info. Plus, we'll also discuss the sports that so directly affect the hobby we all love. We'll mix in an occasional gambling tip or two, throw in some life stuff, and bring you great guest interviews from the hobby and sports dignitaries. And if you're good listeners, we may even give away a few things now and then. Now, here's the guy who wanted the cards and not the gum, John Newman.
Hello, Newman. Hello, Newman. Hello, Newman. Hello, Newman. Hello, Newman. Hello, Newman.
Hello, Sports Card Nation, episode 23 of the Sports Card Nation podcast. Pretty excited for this one. You'll see why a little bit later in the show, but I'm excited for all of them. Otherwise, I wouldn't do this. So this is going to be our NFL draft episode. If you're listening to this, you probably noticed it's not Friday when it came out. We brought this one out earlier to get it in time for you to take it in, soak it in a little bit with the draft starting on Thursday night. So our plan was to release this Wednesday morning. I hope we made it. And it's really going to focus heavily on the NFL draft, and we're going to go through all those scenarios with a special guest that I'm going to have on. So without any further ado,
And here we go.
sad news to report. The sports card podcasting genre and the hobby lost the light this past Thursday, the 18th. Many of you in the social media aspect of the hobby probably know who he is. I never met him personally. I listened to him from the Let Me Get That Potograph show along with Drew Herndon. His name was Stuart Payne. By all accounts, he was a person of faith, a great human being, someone selflessness, very unselfish, and didn't take a lot of the spotlight, did things for others, and he, cancer took his life, but as a person of faith, we believe he's on to bigger and better things. Again, I didn't know Stuart. But just hearing him on the air, if you will, you say you can pick up personalities sometimes through voice, and like I said, I never met him personally, but just listening to him on that show, you could tell he was just a kind spirit, a good guy, something, not growing on trees, and people like that are not always abundant, so you appreciate them when you have them. So to Stuart's family, friends, Drew Herndon as well, losing his very good friend and co-host, prayers and thoughts during this difficult time. It's never easy, but think of all the good memories and keep those in the forefront. So we're going to do something we've never done on the show, but literally have a short pause and a short moment of silence in the memory of Stuart Payne. God bless. We love hearing from our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We encourage your thoughts and feedback, and we do care about what you think. We encourage you to reach out to us at any of our social media accounts, and they are as follows. You can get a hold of us on Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast. That's all one word, Sports Card Nation Podcast. Or our Twitter, which is at Sports Card Natty1, Sports Card NATI1. Or if you go to Facebook, you can search Sports Card Nation Podcast. That's 4 words, and you'll find us. Or you can email the show at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. Also, please give us a follow. We really do appreciate that. Thank you. Deep fried breaks. Card breaks served with a side of Southern hospitality. Come hit some deep fried fire. Right now it's all about Bowman at Deep Fried Breaks, and they're hitting it hard. They like to mix it up with current products and fun classics, the best of both worlds. They have all the best release night breaks, and you won't find a more approachable breaker in the industry. He's glad to help anyone, whether it's their first break or their 1000th break. Free shipping and great selection. Deep Fried Breaks has everything you need when you're looking for that break. Check out Deep Fried Breaks at deepfriedbreaks.com. All right, it's time for What's Crackin'. All right, let's head right to the hobby release schedule. Again, we're coming out kind of early, so I'm going to mention some stuff out on the 24th. That might even be today or already out. On the 24th, a 2019 Panini's Contenders Draft Picks Collegiate Football. 2018-19 Topps Chrome Bundesliga Soccer. On the 26th of April, 2018-19, Panini National Treasures Basketball. That first off the line was already done and ordered, but the regular release will be on the 26th. Also on the 26th, 2018, Piece of the Game Authenticated Masterpiece Baseball. So let's talk a little bit. Obviously, Bowman's still the flavor of the moment. It's just being broke at an alarming rate. I seen someone online that's claimed to have opened 90 cases for breaks. Sounds sort of astronomical, but I don't know how you arbitrarily make up the 90 number if you were going to not tell the truth. So if that's true, that's just one person. There's a ton of breakers breaking this stuff, and I don't think there's a shortage of it, and it really goes into that whole, how much is too much, overproduction, does the price match, what it delivers? And I don't know, if you listen to the last episode, I gave you my dissertation on Bowman. I like the product. There's some things I don't like about it. This is sort of one of them. It's just kind of there's a ton of it made. And I like the base cards. I'm a guy, like I said on last show, I'll buy 100 Joey Bart first Bowmans. Just base cards and put them away. And that sort of thing, and other guys too, not just Joey Bart, right? I just use them as an example. So I like the base cards, but how it makes you wonder how much are they producing in relatively to like Mike Trout's first Bowman card. Was there more made now? I venture a guess and say yes, because I think breaking's more in the mainstream compared to 2011. The cat's kind of out of the bag, and everyone's looking for that next Mike Trout, colored auto type card that, Wander Franco is filling the void in the 2019 product in that regards, and his stuff is just going for, astronomical amounts of money. He'd be a guy, in all honesty, that if I pulled anything of significance, I'd probably sell. I'm not saying he's going to be a bust. That's not what I'm saying. But his stuff's at an all-time high already. As someone that really hasn't done anything what are the chances he lives up to the reputation that his prices are bringing? 10%, 20, even 20, 30%? Even if you believe that, there's still a 50, 60% chance that maybe he's just good or very good, but not the superstar that his prices are already bringing. At the time of this broadcast, he had something like 70 at-bats at high A, and, batting about 250 with no home runs. Now, last year he did have a crazy good year, 350, 11 home runs in 60 games. But, as you move up these levels, these pitchers, the pitching you're going against are higher draft picks, throw more stuff, have more command, have more control. And I've always said this, even before I had the podcast here, and talking to other fans and kind of being a baseball guy and even coaching a little bit. When a guy does it at Double-A, I'd start to really pay attention more than the lower levels. You got to remember, rookie league, low A, I mean, it's just a mishmash of guys and, different talent levels. And when you get into Double-A and obviously Triple-A, now you're talking about people who have the talent to be at those levels. Some of them are from the big leagues, kind of coming back down the ladder, who know how to get younger, youthful guys out. So I'm not saying by any means that Wander Franco's terrible or not good. I don't know, frankly. Just what the scouts say. Those reports are good. But you can already see the difference in a small jump to high A. His numbers are not the same. It's early yet. Let's preface that. But what his stuff's commanding is it's head scratching to me. I know, I wasn't fortunate enough in my Bowman opening to pull any of his stuff. But I also know this. There's a little voice in my head that says if I did hit anything of significance of Wander Franco, it'd be getting listed and published for sale fairly quickly. That's all I'll say, about that. I went to a couple Walmarts the last couple days, and I said that the Bowman displays are there, and they're just bone dry. So people are just cleaning these things out. That's typically what happens with the Bowman release. And then it kind of comes back to reality, if you will. So we'll see, what drives it. Truth be told, I think I touched on this last show. I like Joey Bart as a kind of a can't miss catching prospect. I like Jared Kelenic out of this draft. Nolan Gorman is someone I think is going to live up to the hype. And there's some other guys, but Wander Franco is selling on a whole another level. And again, I don't know. It's going to be a tough billing to live up to those values. So if you're a buyer at those levels, boy, you got to be really confident that this guy is the second coming of something. I don't even know who, and it's amazing every year. Just when I maybe again, old man on the porch syndrome, but every year when it comes to Bowman, when I kind of think I've seen everything, every year Bowman goes and kind of says, hold my beer, and then does something else. And again, with the Wander Franco mania, I guess it's the equivalent of Luka mania in basketball. It's Wander mania in baseball now. And it's good. It's good. I mean, that, it sounds like I'm complaining, but, realistically, it's a good thing for the hobby. It makes it harder to get the product, on the secondary market, when your Walmarts and Targets have empty display boxes. But you know what? I'm not complaining. That is what it is. I did get some in the first couple of days of release from Walmart. They had a pretty full display rack, and I bought a bunch of the camo cello packs, and actually that's pretty much what I bought. And there's a couple blasters and regular packs. So I just bought a bunch of the camos and whatnot. My son actually bought a blaster. He did better opening less than I did opening more. So Bowman wasn't very nice to me on my opening of it. But that's the chance you take. No sour grapes. I've done well on openings too. So you got to take the good with the bad. It'll be, again, interesting to see how long does this product get driven to these levels? Has it hit the ceiling, or is there room for more liftoff? I guess we're going to see. Last year was the Otani and Acuna, and this year it looks like it's really the Wander show. So, I like some other guys a little better. Like I said, Nolan Gorman, Kalanick, Joey Bart. So you can have your Wander. I'll take those guys, and other guys as well. I can't mention everyone. But Bowman's still red hot. I'd like to open some more, if I can find it. So I struck out the last couple of days in my daily trips to a few Walmarts and Targets, and so I'll keep trying. I just find a reason to grab something else at Walmart and then kind of go in there and hit the card shelf. So maybe I'll get lucky like I did like the day after it came out and finding some. So pretty quiet. You got National Treasures basketball coming out. As always, National Treasures usually does pretty well. It'll be interesting to see. I think Luka Mania has kind of got a little Luka warm, if you will. It's still what kind of people want to pull. But I think recent play by Trae Young has kind of closed that gap and kind of cooled off the Luka Mania, if you will. But it's still going to be, with this year's rookie basketball class, it's not just Luka, Trae Young, but Bagley, Ayton, Bridges, and all those rest of those guys. It's still going to be a hot product. It'll be interesting to see with Luka cooling off a little bit, how that product will do. As always, those products, those high-end products in a good rookie year crop are generally going to fare very well. Breakers are going to be breaking it at a breakneck pace, if you will. And so I don't expect a huge cool off from the product itself based on it being National Treasures and the RPAs, and we all know the deal. So it'll be interesting to see, when those Lukas come out, if it's the hottest ticket as it used to be or not. And again, I think Trae Young's kind of closed that gap. As many who believe, and I'm can't say I'm not one of them, that he may potentially win Rookie of the Year when that vote comes down. I guess if I had a vote, I may go Trae Young, but I don't get one, so it won't matter. But for those, that brings up a good segue. I made the announcement, 5-6 weeks ago. We are going to do a year-end award show for the first time. We're going to call it, Sports Card Nation People's Choice or something to that effect. I'm going to nominate people and products in different categories, and then I'm going to have online votes to determine who the winner of those awards are. So it's going to be where you pick the winners of those awards based on polling. So, and we'll announce them, and we'll have a special show to make those announcements. So it'll be kind of a fun thing. We're kind of way in advance of that, but I figured since we're talking about potential real award winners, I'd mention about the Sports Card Nation People's Choice Awards, if you will. And gratuitous plug there. Thanks for letting me do it. So that being said, it'll be an interesting week. See what Bowman continues his ascent, and does National Treasures basketball steal some of that shine? So welcome to the NFL draft preview that Sports Card Nation is going to do. And when I thought about doing this segment, I thought about either doing it solo or bringing someone on that could bring some knowledge to this aspect. And when I was thinking of people to have on to guest spot for this segment, one person kind of came to mind. I've known him for 19 years, and and we like to debate a lot in those 19 years, and this is no difference. But I will give him credit. I don't want him to get a big head, but we are related. We share the same last name. He's my son, Jordan Newman. So Jordan is making his first appearance on the Sports Card Nation podcast for this segment. But like I said, I'll give credit where credit's due. He does know his college football, probably even more so than his dad, to be quite honest. So when I decided to put this show together and even release it earlier, he just kind of was the perfect fit to bring him on. And what we're going to do with this segment before I bring him on is we're going to go off Charles Davis's mock draft from NFL Network. I don't think he's great. He's okay. I'm not going to pick on the guy. But we're going to go through his picks and kind of what we think, if it's kind of accurate. If not, maybe who's actually going to probably get picked in that spot, and so on. But before I bring Jordan on, in a few months himself, Jordan will be embarking on his own college football career. So it's exciting times here in the Newman household. He'll do that in August. He's heading to St. John's Fisher in the Rochester area. And he, like I say, he's a big football fan himself. So welcome, Jordan, to your dad's show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, so what do you before we start this segment? I kind of introed you with starting your own college football experience in August. What can you say to that? I know you're excited, but not everyone else knows that. So if you want to tell those listening.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. I think obviously being a year apart from football, gives you kind of introspection of how important it really is and how much of a part of your life it becomes. And you really don't want to lose that, especially with, there's not a whole lot of opportunities after college to play football. So, it's kind of one of those deals where I still want to play, and it's kind of my opportunity to. And it's exciting going in because I don't know where I'm playing or what position, offensive. I have no idea. So I think it's like kind of like you're 5 years old again going into, a Pop Warner type scenario. You don't know what you're doing, but you're just happy to be out there playing football. And I think that's kind of where I'm at 19.
Yeah, well, that'll be fun. I know I'm gonna enjoy it. Probably maybe not as much as you, I hope, but yeah. It will be fun for the family. I know Mom is excited as well. For those that don't know, if you read between the lines what Jordan just said, he had opportunities to play. He graduated in 2018 from high school. He did have a few opportunities to play football on the college level, and he just decided at that time he kind of, I don't know if burnt out is the right way to put it, but to that level, he wanted to kind of stay local, go to a community college, and not really, and focus more on academics rather than athletics. And that's what he did. Not to humble brag, I know he's sitting right here, but he set most of his school records, not only passing but even rushing from the quarterback position. So he holds most of the records for Bishop Grimes High School here in East Syracuse, New York. And like I said, he decided not to go to the next level and stay local in the college area around here. And then, after a semester, he realized he did miss it. And fortunately, he still had some interest, and he did. His head coach sent out some film, and a few teams responded. That was on his own list, and pretty much one of his top choices, if not the top choice, was one of the quickest colleges to respond back to the head coach. He went on to visit, and the rest is history. So he'll be headed to St. John's Fisher in August. So again, a little backstory with him, and we're proud of him. So with that being said, let's go into the NFL draft. We're going to go pick by pick, Jordan, here. Obviously, if it's kind of no-brainer, it makes sense. We'll kind of go on to the next pick. I told you off the air, I doubt this will be the exact draft order. I see a lot of teams trading up and trading back both. So this draft order could be completely different, but we don't know that. We have to go on the way it's set up at the moment. And so that's what we'll do. Again, for those that didn't hear on the intro, we're going to play off Charles Davis. This is Charles Davis's mock draft. So we're going to go from pick 1 to pick 32. We're going to do one round. Obviously, we may talk about guys that aren't even in his first round potentially, depending if we see them moving up into the first round. So let's start. It's the hot button pick. Everyone's got an opinion on it, what the Cardinals do at pick number 1. The consensus is they fell in love. Cliff Kingsbury fell in love with Kyler Murray and out of love with Josh Rosen. And that's what everyone has slotted to him, Kyler Murray. My own opinion on this, I'm not a big Kyler Murray fan. He's definitely, to me, not the number 1 overall pick in this draft. And if that's who it is, the way they've handled Josh Rosen has really been, I'm not a Josh Rosen fan, but I actually feel bad for the young man. He's kind of like the prom date left, no one picks him up, and if they're going to pick Murray, I think they should have moved Rosen a lot sooner. I'm reading things now that they're toying with the idea of drafting Murray and keeping Rosen. To me, that's a recipe for disaster if that's the case. If you're going to take Murray with the number 1 pick, he's really your guy, and what you do with keeping Rosen there is just a detriment not only to Rosen, but I think probably Murray in that case as well. So what do you think, Jordan?
I think there's a lot of factors that would point going away from Kyler Murray for the number 1 pick. One, you drafted a guy 10 overall last year who you plan on building your franchise around, and you didn't really have a whole lot around him. I think you misused plenty of talent offensively. The lack use of David Johnson was bad, and their offensive line was abysmal on its own. He had the least time to throw out of pretty much every quarterback in the NFL. So to kind of blame him and then all of a sudden fall in love with a guy who, as a quarterback, has a lot of red flags. As a guy who's around 5'10", that's an outlier. You don't see short quarterbacks perform well in the NFL. It's rare, and you can point to what Russell Wilson, Breeze, and Mayfield, but it's not a normal occurrence. You don't see that often. So right there should already be kind of a question mark. In the defensive talent in the draft alone, you have a guy, Nick Bosa, who's probably one of the most can't miss guys in the last 3-4 drafts, and you're gonna pass up on him for a guy at quarterback who's got a lot of question marks and doesn't, you don't know what you're going to get out of him in a different system, especially in the NFL. He's not going to be able to run around. He's going to be probably one of the most athletic guys on the field, but I don't think he has the success just really running around doing what he wants and finding guys open downfield.
Yep, I agree, and I think the way they've handled this, even if that is the case, like I already said, they botched. They really dropped the ball here. They got a mess, and how they come out of this looking clean is I don't see it. But
at this point, you almost have to get rid of Rosen. Just the lack of communication towards Rosen, or just telling him you're committed to him, and then everything in the news is the complete opposite, and then even releasing a hype video. And the only person not included in the hype video is your starting quarterback. That's
crazy.
Ridiculous.
This is like the equivalent of a guy dating 2 girls, and when he's with one, he tells them how much he loves her, and then when he's with the other one, you're the only girl for me too. So this thing's gotten kind of ugly. I think Cliff Kingsbury's off to a pretty rocky start, and when you look at his record as a head coach on the college level, it doesn't knock your socks off.
Yeah, which is odd. He gets promoted after he gets fired from Texas Tech. He didn't get the offer before, and he decided to leave. He was fired. He was under 500 at Texas Tech, which is traditionally a top 25 school, and it's just odd to see a guy who he's a great offensive mind, but a guy who apparently struggled to lead a team to, plus 500 or winning seasons, all of a sudden get promoted from being a lower Big 12, head coach to an NFL head coach.
Yeah, he definitely landed in the rose patch after that. So this is the kind of pick, I don't know what's going on in Phoenix. This organization, they fire Wilkes after 1 year. They hire someone who's never been a coach at the NFL level. I call it the Sean McVay effect.
Because people are trying to look for young guys that know offense, and I think it's going to translate.
And this pick can really seal their faith. If it's Kyler Murray and he turns out to not be great, this could set that organization back many years, and like you said, you got kind of two guys that kind of fit what could be number one picks and sure shots in Bosa and Quinnen Williams, and so they may go with the unsafe pick, and it may really backfire and explode on them. So
it's also just a waste of value because you're not going to get a 10th overall pick for Rosen. So you do a 1 year experiment with him and then dump him for much less than what you picked him at. It's just a waste of value. And I'm not saying Murray's not going to be good. There's a chance he's going to be good. But at the same time, you still lose out on Rosen, who many people think has great potential to be a franchise guy. And the Cardinals at one point thought that. They wouldn't pick him at 10 if they didn't. And if Kingsbury's this quarterback or offensive whisperer, let him have a couple years with a guy like Rosen, who people believe in his abilities. You know what I mean? If he's such an offensive, guru, then Rosen should do well in that system. But for whatever reason, they're all in, it seems, on Murray.
Yeah, so we'll see how that plays out. There's conflicting reports. Some are now saying they are not going to pick him. I'll give a second scenario if that's the case. But for now, let's go to the number 2 pick. We probably won't spend a lot of time here. San Francisco, if they do pick Murray at 1, Arizona, San Francisco basically, to me, gets the number 1 pick. And that's probably how they're looking at it as well. So I think they go with Bosa if he drops down to them. I don't think a lot to disagree with there. Probably the most polished, NFL-ready type guy. There's our reports. I don't know if I agree with this wholeheartedly, but many people think Nick Bosa is going to be better than his brother Joey. So if that's the case, San Fran will definitely like that pick as well, because I think San Diego or L.A., as they are known now, are pretty happy with Joey Bosa's production. So if Nick's better, San Francisco is getting quite a player. Number 3, the Jets. This is where this can get interesting as well. There are reports that the Jets are trying to trade back because they like a lot of guys and they want to get maybe an extra pick or two and still get a guy they very much like. We can't assume that, so we'll obviously keep them at 3. Charles Davis has them selecting Quinnen Williams, which is obviously a very good pick. I think they go here and they go with Ed Oliver. But they could pick Williams. What say you, Jordan?
There's reports that they want to trade down, but if they can't trade down, they really are in love with Ed Oliver. And even if it's a reach, even if he'll be there later, it's a kind of a guy where they're so in love, they'd rather reach just to get him. They're in a good spot where I think you can stay and get really good talent. But I think if they're not in love with a guy like Quinnen Williams or Josh Allen type of guy, they have the ability to drop back, get the guy in Ed Oliver they want, and gain value. So I think the best scenario for them would be able to trade back, but I think they've kind of let it be known they want out. So I think, you know what I mean, teams kind of know that, and I don't think teams will be as eager, especially knowing they're not in love with guys like Quinnen Williams, that they might let them stay there and take whoever they want.
Yep. So I could see them trading back. If they stay there, I'm gonna pick Ed Oliver for him. I think that's who they would pull the trigger on.
I think they stick with Williams because it's kind of hard not to. But I know they are in love with Ed Oliver. So it's tough because at 3, Oliver's kind of a reach, because he's projected to go a little bit later. But if they're as in love with him as they kind of say, yeah, I definitely could see it happening.
So here we go with pick number 4. to the Raiders. Still currently in L.A., soon to be Las Vegas. Charles Davis on his mock. I'm thinking Khalil Mack. On his mock, has them selecting Josh Allen. Here's what I'll say with this pick. If Arizona passes on Murray, and Murray is here at pick 4, which I believe he would obviously be if Arizona doesn't take him, I really think John Gruden pulls the trigger and grabs Murray at 4. So, frankly, I don't see Murray dropping below 4, even if Arizona don't take him. Let's not assume that. Charles Davis has got Allen as the pick here. I think they go with either. I think they're still looking for that replacement for Khalil Mack, so Devin White might be their selection here. Or they could go Josh Allen off the edge as well, like Charles Davis says. But I wouldn't be shocked if Murray's gone if they try to get Khalil Mack 2.0 and Devin White and
well, Allen's more like Khalil Mack than Devin White.
Well, I think either one of these guys are good defensive players, and I think Gruden's still trying to live that trade down. He hears all the conversation. Getting a defensive guy would maybe quiet the naysayers. But I tell you what, if Arizona doesn't take Murray, this pick gets really interesting because reports are Gruden absolutely loves Kyler Murray. So we'll see how that shakes out. We got pick number 5 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, the Raiders, it's just ironic you trade away kind of the best edge rusher in all of football just to take a guy you hope's anything like the guy you just traded away. Yeah. The best outcome for Josh Allen would be somewhat similar to Khalil Mack, and that's a guy you just got rid of.
I just think it would be funny if Josh Allen tackles Josh Allen. That would be kind of funny. All right, so going to the 5th pick and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Charles Davis has them taking Devin White at LSU linebacker. What do you think, Jordan?
I mean, that's a great pick. He really doesn't have any flaws. His tape and his combine match up almost perfectly. I mean, he's going to be, I think, one of the top-tier middle linebackers in all football. He does everything well, and he's not just a combine star. He ran a 4.4, but he was a big-time player before he even stepped foot in Indy. His tape matches up. He's just a great player. I think that's a great pick. And he skyrocketed right after the combine because he had the speed to match up with the film.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay does go defense with this pick. Who that is, we'll see. But I think that's the safe bet. I think with Arians there now, Todd Bowles is the defensive coordinator. I think Arians probably likes what he's kind of got in the cupboard for offense, and many people believe he's kind of like an offensive guru. Maybe he can resurrect Jameis Winston's plateauing. And so I think they do go defense to try to balance things out. And Todd Bowles, you can say what you want about him as a head coach, but he's never been called a bad defensive coordinator. So I think they're going to help him out to rebuild that side of the ball with a defensive selection. Pick number 6, this one's another interesting one with the New York Giants. Many people think they're eyeing Dwayne Haskins. Other people said no way, that they're still riding on Eli's shoulders. Charles Davis has him taking Rashawn Gary, defensive end out of Michigan. I think if they don't go with Haskins, it probably definitely has to be a defensive guy, although I wouldn't rule out an offensive lineman. The Giants while they have improved that line that once was one of the worst in the league, I don't think they're back yet. And when you got a guy like Saquon Barkley, which to me is the best running back in the game or pretty close to it, and you got Eli Manning, who's many people still believes good if he has time, I think adding one more piece to that line may be the pick. So I wouldn't be shocked here if they went and took Jawan Taylor, the tackle from Florida. So I'm not really sold on Charles Davis's Rashawn Gary selection for them. Jordan, how do you see this playing out?
I think they're in love with Daniel Jones. I think that's their guy. They're kind of past Haskins at this point. I think they're hoping Jones is at 17 because they have the 17th
Yeah, I don't
pick.
think they're going to pick Jones at 6.
No, so they're not. I mean, all the reports say they don't love Haskins. They're not in love. They like what they see, but I don't think enough to take him at 6. So I think Rashawn Gary's not a terrible pick there. It's probably one of your better defensive talents left. I think you could also see him take Ed Oliver. I think there's a shot they go there. I just think the line is possible, but I think you go best defensive talent probably at 6 and then turn around and probably go for Daniel Jones at 17 because that's all the reports are saying that's their guy. They've worked obviously with Eli, and then Eli's kind of quarterback coach and guru has said Daniel Jones is identical to his brother Peyton. So I think they take a lot of value in that, and it looks like that's where they want to go.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily disagree. I don't think they're going quarterback at 6. So to me, it's defender or offensive line. I wouldn't be shocked they go ahead and grab Juwan Taylor, kind of a mainstay on that line for like double-digit years. And if they go defense, like you said, I don't know if Gary's the pick. They may, if Ed Oliver's still on the board at 6, they may make that play. So, obviously that's why we watch the draft. So let's go to pick number 7. This one sort of interesting too. Jacksonville Jaguars. They've got all sorts of different issues. They got a new quarterback in Nick Foles. Blake Bortles is shown the door, and so. Charles Davis has them taking Juwan Taylor, that tackle from Florida. I don't know if I see that. Where do you think the Jags go?
I think there's a good shot they go Taylor, obviously being a Gator, and they like kind of Gator guys, around the Florida area. I think you could go with him. I think they could really make a splash and take the first receiver. And there's really not a consensus on who the best receiver is in the draft. So I think that would be a situation where they would just take the guy they like the most. I think you can go receiver line. I don't think they need as much help defensively. I think they can wait. I mean, their defense is pretty stacked. They have really guys everywhere. There's small holes, but that line in the receiver core was pretty beat up and struggled last year. So I think going with Taylor there makes a lot of sense to at least bolster the line a little bit, and then probably come back second round, take a receiver who, who they like, who has been picked yet.
Yeah, I think they're in dire need of receivers. Their receiving core, to me, is one of the worst in the league, to be honest with you. But what I think here is I don't know if they pick one at 7, if they feel any are worthy of that high pick. So that, again, like you said, they might go with the safe pick in Taylor. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be shocked if one of these big-time defensive guys kind of slipped down, let's say a Devin White, Ed Oliver, Quinnen Williams, although I don't see that. If one of those guys are sitting there, I wouldn't floor me if Marone and Coughlin just grab one of those and just try to make a kind of a strong point stronger. But we'll see. The pick that Charles Davis got, like I said, is Taylor. We'll have to see how that plays out as well. Pick number 8 is the Detroit Lions, and they have a defensive head coach in Matt Patricia. And Charles Davis got him taken Ed Oliver. We've talked a lot about him so far. I think that would be a good pick for him if he lasts to this selection.
I don't think he gets down.
Yeah, I don't either. So let's go off of that. If Ed Oliver's not there at 8 for the Lions, what direction may they go in?
I think you could see them go tight end, obviously getting rid of Ebron last year. I think you could see him taking Hawkinson or Fant, depending on who they like. I mean, I wouldn't do that. I'm not big on first-round tight ends, but I think you could definitely see him go tight end in that situation.
Yeah, I was thinking Hawkinson, too, potentially for an offensive guy. So that brings us to pick 9 in our closest team to where we live, in the Buffalo Bills. Charles Davis has the Bills taking T.J. Hawkinson, the tight end we just mentioned, out of Iowa. I don't know. I think the Bills like Josh Allen a lot. I think they think they got their guy. They probably want to get some weapons. I don't put it past them to Maybe think receiver here, especially if none are off the board yet. Might be the ideal time for the first one to get selected, whoever the Bills on their draft board think is the number one. So I could see them going wide receiver. I know Zay Jones played better the second half of last year, but I don't think they're set there by any means, and I think you want to complement or even get better than Zay Jones maybe on the other side. So I could see them taking one of the the receivers, whether it be Harry, Metcalf, or one of the Browns. So I don't think they're going to pick Hockenson. I really don't. I think Charles Davis is going to miss on this one, if you will. How do you see this?
Yeah, I think they're probably going to be the first team to take a receiver. I like Jones, but I don't think he's proven to be a one. I think you still want to find that guy to be your number one for the future, especially with Josh Allen, who you really don't want to waste time in developing him. I think or depending on if you see a guy drop from, defensively, that's a big-time defensive talent, I think they take him, but I think they're probably going to go receiver in this situation.
Yes, hey, there's a rarity. We both agree that the Bills are taking
especially
a wide receiver.
Because it'll be their choice, I don't think at 9 they're going to have to settle for what someone else didn't pick. I think they'll be able to sit there and be like, this is who we want and who we really believe in.
All right, so we're at the 10th pick in the Denver Broncos, and Charles Davis has the Broncos and John Elway taking quarterback Drew Lock out of Missouri. A lot of people love Drew Lock and think he might be, honestly, the best quarterback in this draft class. I don't know if I'd go that far. I think he's solid. Elway really hasn't found that franchise guy yet. He's tried. He's taken some swings, hit a couple foul balls. He just traded for Joe Flacco. So right now, at the moment, Joe Flacco's the starter. But, do you see them taking a quarterback with this 10th pick?
From what everything says is they're in love with Drew Lock. He's their guy. Elway, that's who Elway wants. But according to this mock, if Haskins is still there and you're picking a franchise quarterback, I find it hard to pick Drew Lock over Haskins. I think Drew Lock has potential, but a guy like Haskins is young, and the numbers he put up are just kind of ungodly against Big Ten defenses week in and week out. He's got the body, he's got the frame, he's got the arm in a pro-style offense. I would just, if I'm in that situation and Haskins is there, I think, to me, Haskins is the best quarterback in the draft. I would find it hard not to pick him, especially with Elway's track record of not drafting quarterbacks and just signing kind of slightly above average ones. I think this is a situation where you can get a guy who at one point was kind of widely regarded as the best quarterback in the draft at 10, and have him, even if you want, sit behind Flacco for a year, who's similar to Haskins, and he's kind of big and has a huge arm, and kind of let him, start to understand the offense and kind of a Mahomes situation, and then his second year really let him come in and take over.
I can see that. I also wouldn't be shocked here if maybe Elway doesn't pull the trigger at this spot for a quarterback, and maybe goes tight end. Maybe they just say, we got a stopgap for at least a year or two in Flacco. Let's get him a big weapon on the outside. A guy like Noah Fant or Hockenson if he's still on the board at 10. So I could see them going Drew Lock or tight end. I think they go
Lock, though. From everything they say, is Elway is just absolutely enamored with Drew Lock.
I don't disagree, but I wouldn't. I think tight end might be a dark horse pick here too, because I can't honestly tell you what Denver's tight end's name is.
If Haskins is there, I think they go get him. But if he's not, then I would go tight end. I'm not huge on Drew Lock.
All right. Well, thank God. Drew Lock is saying, "Thank God you're not the GM of the Broncos." All right, pick number 11. The Cincinnati Bengals. There are some reports that the organization's kind of getting weary of the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton, and maybe thinking about what that next chapter will be at that position. Charles Davis apparently feels the same way because he has Dwayne Haskins going to the Bengals at 11. I'm going to disagree here. I think the Bengals are the new Browns or the old Browns or whatever you want to call them. I think they've switched positions. I think they're a poorly run organization. I think this is going to probably be a bad pick. I'm sure hoping it is as a Steeler fan. And I don't think they're going to go quarterback. I'm not saying they love Andy Dalton, but I just think they think that they still have something there a little bit. And they may go receiver here. I think they kind of swung and missed on John Ross. They still have A.J. Green there, and he has some gas left in the tank. And they might want to get another offensive weapon for Andy on the other side. So I think they could go one of the big 3 or 4 wide receivers, depending on who's left and who hasn't been picked. I don't see them taking a quarterback at this point, but he's got Haskins going there.
I think if Haskins is there, you take him. I don't think there's any way Haskins falls to 11. I think they have a shot to really take just whatever defensive talent is there, and kind of because I don't think they're that close. I think they need a lot of help. So I think you go probably best defensive talent, or if you really want to fill position, you could see him go go at quarterback and really try and get the next guy after Dalton. But I just don't think it makes sense because I think they need too much help, and the defense in the draft is so good. I think it's tough to pass up, a defensive talent like who's not left on the board with a guy like Brian Burns or Cleenan Ferrell for a guy who won't see the field probably for at least a year.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'd be a little surprised, though, if they go quarterback. So that brings us to pick number 12, the Green Bay Packers. Boy, it's been a long time since you said Green Bay at this early stage of the draft, but here they are at 12. Charles Davis has Noah Fant, the tight end from Iowa, going to them at 12. And I got to say, I don't see that either. This is why I think I took Charles Davis's draft to nitpick on. I think they got Jimmy Graham and Mercedes Lewis. I know they're both old, but I don't think they're going to pick a third tight end. He's as good as Fant is. At the 12 pick, I think they might go a defender here. They need some secondary help, corner, safety. So this is the area they may go for one of the corners, highly rated corners potentially. I don't see them picking a tight end. I could obviously be wrong. That's the beauty of these discussions. But I think they go defense. I think, as crazy as it sounds, I know Rodgers didn't have a great year. He got a little nicked up as well. But I think with even the 2 old tight ends, I think they figure they got another year or 2 combined with those guys. And I think they think Rodgers is good enough to make offensive guys around him better. And I think they try to fix the defensive side of the ball.
I actually disagree. I think they do go tight end. I think Hockenson will still be there. They really like Hockenson. I think that's who they end up going with. I think if Hawkinson's gone, they're not going to settle with Fant. I think they'll go a different direction. But I do think they'll go tight end. Jimmy Graham, ever since he's left the Saints, has never been nearly the same guy. It's kind of year in and year out, always tall, fast, receiving tight end. But he never lives up to that bill. He always just kind of becomes an average. He'll have a game here or there. But he's never what, you expect him to be since his, New Orleans days. So I think they do go tight end, and I think you go with Hockenson at 12.
Yeah, we'll see. One of us is right, one of us is wrong. Or maybe we're both wrong, and they go with one of the quarterbacks who dropped out to stay behind Aaron Rodgers for 4 years, like Favre Rodgers Part 2. All right, let's go pick number 13, which is the Miami Dolphins. That organization's got some issues. They don't know, I don't think, what's going on. Who's the running back? Who's this? Who's that? They got Brian Flores from the Patriots to, I guess they feel like if they can't beat them, steal their coaches. And here they have Charles Davis has them picking Clelin Ferrell, the defensive end from Clemson. I could see that. Probably a pretty safe, solid pick. They've got so many holes here. that you could go anywhere with the Dolphins. Even quarterback. Who's the quarterback right now?
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Like I said, who's the quarterback right now? If you're hitching your wagons to Ryan Fitzpatrick, you'll get that nice 2 to 3, 4 game streak where Fitzmagic happens, and then the magic will run out, and you don't have a quarterback. So here's where I honestly think, depending on how these quarterbacks fall out and where if they get picked,
well, they're in love with Tua. There's reports that's who they want in the future.
And they're waiting.
Yeah, so I don't think they go quarterback here. I think you really just take the best talent left on the board.
Yeah.
I think they need so much help pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I think they take best available player type of deal. So
unless they also really like Murray. And other than the Cardinals, after the Cardinals, I don't know how many teams are in love with Murray. I think there's a outside shot if the Cardinals do go with Bosa, he drops, and I think that's who they take. But I think if not, you go with whoever's best.
Yeah, I agree with you. If the Cardinals don't tab Murray, I think Murray's either a Raider or a Dolphin. But this is about as low as Murray will go, worst case scenario for him, I believe. And Jordan obviously agrees with that as well. So we're at pick 14, the Atlanta Falcons, and talk about a team kind of falling off the ledge. From having that Super Bowl one against the Patriots, and let's call it what it was, a choke job, and this team has kind of just, I don't know, I guess they got the hangover from that bad loss.
Injuries hurt them this year. What's his name? Keanu Neal got hurt, Deion Jones got hurt, and someone else I think up front got hurt. So I mean they still probably should have performed better, but they were pretty banged up.
Yeah, I think this for sure. Charles Davis has them taking Christian Wilkins, the defensive tackle out of Clemson. I will say this. I think this is definitely a defensive pick for them. I think they feel they're set with Matt Ryan. I think Ito Smith starts getting more carries from the running back position. They obviously have Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Muhammad
Freeman's still there too.
Yeah, which I'm not a big fan of his, but still, you're right. So I think on the offensive side of the ball, they feel like they're where they kind of want to be, minus injuries last year, and so I think that they're going to go defense here. It's whether it's Wilkins or someone else. If one of these other bigger guys kind of drops for whatever reason, they'll probably tab him. But so I can't argue with the Wilkins pick. Again, a lot of it depends who might slide down and fall into their lap. But, yeah, definitely could see that. So that's anything you want to add there?
No, I think they'd probably go best defensive player available. Other than safety, they're pretty set there. I just think they need help defensively, and there's plenty of defenders in this draft.
Oh, yeah. So number 15, the Washington Redskins. Charles Davis has the Skins taking edge rusher Brian Burns out of Florida State. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know much about Brian Burns. I know Florida State didn't have a great year. That doesn't mean Brian Burns isn't good. Washington's another team that's got some things going on. They got an Alex Smith at quarterback that's coming off a horrific injury. We're not even sure he won't play.
Keenum will be the quarterback.
Yep, and so they got a spot at potentially at quarterback. They've got wide receiver issues. I'm gonna go. I don't think they're gonna. They may take a quarterback here if
they
huge.
like Drew Lock a lot. So if Drew Lock were somehow to fall there, I think they don't pass him. But I think if not, I think the first receiver could come off the board here, especially at 15. I think you could also see him take, the best defender available, kind of like in this. They have Burns. Burns scares me, though, because he played small. He's very lengthy. His weight was slightly kind of under what you'd want at an NFL guy, and he had to put on put on 25 pounds, between the combine and kind of now. And it's always, it's tough to play at a different weight than you've played for the last, 3-4 years. So you're kind of worried, will he be able to be as explosive with the extra weight? So that stuff is kind of always, scary. Still a great player. So I think you go probably best defensive player or receiver there.
I'm going out, and I don't even want to say it's a limb. I think the Skins take a receiver here, especially if really none are off the board at this point of all the top ones. So I think the receiver, they haven't had a really solid receiver in a while. I think they go and try to stretch the field for whoever's quarterback, just someone that can take the top off the defense and maybe thin that defensive out. So I'm going to say the Skins pick receiver, not defense here. That brings us to pick number 16 in the Carolina Panthers. Charles Davis has the selection as Andre Dillard, the Washington State tackle. I could see that. They got some issues on that line. Cam Newton definitely took some shots, and it affected his play. I think they have weapons there with McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Greg Olsen if healthy, and they want to probably keep Cam Newton and buy him some time. So I could see this pick going down this way. Again, they could go on the defensive side of the ball as well, like you said, with the depth at the defensive part of this draft, which also could make the argument you take the tackle from Washington State because it's not as deep on the O-line. So I think Charles Davis might actually be, in the mix on this one.
Yeah, I think they go line here. I mean, Newton's been getting banged up, and even if he runs a lot of the times he's getting hit bad or kind of him in the pocket. So I think they definitely have to go line here, especially with the talent they have with Christian McCaffrey, Newton, and what's his name? DJ Moore. I think you got to bolster your line. They have the talent on offense to go and make plays. You just have to give them time to make plays. I think that's why they go line here.
I think we might have the guy wrong, but I definitely did think they go offensive.
Jonah Williams is still there from Bama. I think they go with Williams because Jonah Williams is arguably the top lineman in the draft. So I think there's a shot. If he's there, he goes there.
And speaking of Jonah Williams, that's who Charles Davis has going with the next selection to the Giants at 17. I'm going to disagree. I think this is where I think it's the worst kept secret in the draft. I think the Giants take Daniel Jones here. I think they've really already printed out a jersey with Jones on the back of it. And I think this is where they go ahead and grab him. So I don't see Jonah Williams wearing a Giants uniform. Any disagreement there?
No, I don't think there's any way they go Jonah Williams. I think it's going to be Daniel Jones. As long as he is there, he's going to be a Giant. I think the reason you don't take a quarterback at 6 is because you have a guy you're waiting on, and that guy's, obviously Daniel Jones. If the only way you go lineman is if Daniel Jones isn't there, and I don't think the Giants would really let that happen.
Yeah. So, I think, like I said, I think they've fallen in love with the guy. I think they've already bought tickets for each other for the prom, and the prom happens at pick number 17. All right, so number 18, the pick belongs to the Minnesota Vikings. They're another team that kind of was at the precipice of greatness, if you will, and they kind of fell a little bit off. I'm a big fan of Mike Zimmer, so while I'm not a Vikings fan, I still believe any team coached by Mike Zimmer has a good chance to be successful. Charles Davis has him taking guard Cody Ford out of Oklahoma. I could see defense here, maybe even another corner, maybe not. I think they're strong in the secondary. I really don't know. They're not a bad team, so they don't really have any blaring weaknesses. Obviously, they don't need a quarterback. Some people may not like Kirk Cousins, but if you have Kirk Cousins as your quarterback, you're probably not drafting one at this point. So they're not really weak in any one particular area. Probably O-line, so maybe this will be an O-line pick. It may not be Ford, depending on who's available. You see anything different?
No, I think you go O-line, like you said. They're pretty good. Offensively, other than line, they're pretty much set. Defensively, they're a pretty good team. I mean, there's really not many holes. I think they go probably best lineman available unless they're really in love with a guy defensively, and if he's still there, they go there. But I think they end up going with their line here.
All right. So that brings us to pick 19, the Tennessee Titans, who apparently are collecting quarterbacks. They have Mariota and Tannehill, and maybe they should just take one at 19 and have three of them, and then they could start trading some and get other guys. But all joking aside, Charles Davis has them taking Jeffrey Simmons, the defensive tackle out of Mississippi State. Full disclosure, I don't know a lot about Jeffrey Simmons. I'll speak to the Titans. I think their defense is actually pretty good. I think their secondary is one of their strongest points, so I don't think they go secondary. They could use a linebacker here, but even in the backfield, they got kind of a backfield by committee, so they probably don't go running back, and I really don't think there's really that many great running backs in this draft.
No.
Anyway, I could see the Titans going receiver here. I don't think they're super strong in that department. You got a couple quarterbacks, but who's catching the ball? You got Corey Davis, but he has yet to live up to the billing. Maybe this is the year. He did play. I will give him credit. He did have a solid second half, so maybe that's enough to force them not to go ahead and pick a receiver this high and go with a kind of an outside guy here like a Simmons. Oh, how do you see this at pick 19?
I like Simmons a lot. He's actually, for a D lineman, he's super versatile. He can move around. He's quick. He fits multiple roles. I think he's flexible. You can move him around. I like that pick there. I think it would be good. You know what I mean? They have a lot of needs, and I think he's a guy that's, you know what I mean, can adjust and move to where you need him. I think that's a good pick. I still think there's a shot they go receiver. I would be a little weird because they haven't hit on receivers in the draft, in which they have drafted a lot of receivers. So I'd probably go with the best defensive talent. I think Simmons can definitely move around and kind of fit where you need him. And it doesn't lock you into one position for him, where if you're better somewhere else and you still want him on the field, you can move him kind of towards an end or back in the middle.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna go with what I said. I think they go and they pick a wide receiver here. I think they might surprise some people. So here's our team, Jordan.
Yeah.
Pick number 20. For those, if you've listened to the show, you know I'm a huge Steeler guy, and obviously Jordan is too, or we wouldn't let him live here. Yeah. That's a story in itself for another day. But here's our boys at 20. We definitely got secondary issues. Yeah. We've got some linebacker issues that need to be cleaned up as well. Here, Charles Davis has Greedy Williams being the choice. I'll be honest with you, if that was the pick, I'd be probably pretty happy with that. I'd like to see a corner go here. The guy I really would want, they're probably not going to get without trading up, and that's Devin White. Mm-hmm. There's rumor that if Rashawn Gary was to drop, they would tab him. I'm not in love with him as the selection, so I think you got to go corner here, and they might have a few choices. According to the way this draft is played out and us talking about it, they got Greedy Williams here. You got Byron Murphy.
Yeah, it'll be the first corner off the board, so they really, if this is how it works out, they have full choice to pick whoever they think fits best.
Yep. What makes me nervous, let's be honest, as Steeler fans, we're sometimes the most critical. They've really swung and missed on a lot of corners. It's been a while since they actually hit on a corner.
They draft well. It's just they've struggled pretty bad with corners.
Yep. So, my fear is they select Greedy Williams and Byron Murphy is the best corner. Or the reverse. They select Byron Murphy and Greedy Williams turns out to be a shutdown corner. So I hope they do their due diligence and break down all the film they need to do, and they hit on whatever corner they select if that's the way they go. If I could have my druthers of anybody in the draft, really, almost, it'd probably be Devin White. It'd be crazy to think if they could pull off a trade with the Jets and move into that third slot and get their guy in White. I do know reading all the blogs and whatnot, the Steelers, that would be their first guy on their draft board, period. So, I don't obviously know what goes on behind the scenes. I wonder if something like that's even been discussed. It'd be crazy to think. But if they stay at 20 and the Greedy Williams the pick, I'm good with that. I've been good with Byron Murphy. I guess I would just be crossing my fingers and hoping whatever corner they pick, he's not Artie Burns, 2.0. So I think we're on the same page there, right, Jordan?
Yeah, I think from a lot of different mock drafts, it has them taking Byron Murphy, which would give me the sense that, people that are insiders kind of get the feel that they like Murphy a little bit more than Williams. I like Greedy Williams. I don't think he's as polished as Byron Murphy or a DeAndre Baker. I like DeAndre Baker a lot also from Georgia. He's just a tad undersized. But, Williams has, I think, the highest upside. He's probably the biggest, most physical, and most athletic out of them. So, it's you can go wherever you want here with corner. You have, you determine who you want in that situation. And like you said, if they can, somehow create a package to move up to get Devin White, I think you bolster your defense you'll never be able to replace Shazier, but you get a guy who can become the head of that defense
they
again.
said Devin White's the closest thing to him.
He ran a 4.4, and he's probably one of the most physical players in the draft. I think he becomes kind of the head of your defense and the quarterback of that defense, which they don't have. They have talent on defense. It's just they really don't have a leader, and you have Cam Hayward, but you don't have a guy to stand in the middle of that defense who can run, sideline to sideline. They're just kind of stuck with no
as
speed.
We know, John Bostic and Vince Williams, while they're serviceable, they're not.
Well, Williams is good. He's not a pass defending linebacker, and neither is Bostic. They're both known as kind of run stoppers, and when you ask a guy like that to stand in the slot and cover slot receivers, it's just not going to go.
Well, it also hurts when your defensive coordinator shouldn't be a defensive coordinator, but we're going off in a different direction, so we'll leave that there. Keith Butler just took me off his Christmas card list, which I don't think I was on to begin with. So the pick at 21, according to Charles Davis, is a guy I actually really like in Montez Sweat, the edge rusher out of Mississippi State, which makes me think, if he's there at 20, do the Steelers think about this guy? Because I like him that much.
Heart. He would be a top 5 pick. It's just he has the heart condition, and teams he didn't pass his physical, or they did find an underlying heart condition. And teams are kind of worried about, how that'll affect, how his play.
Yeah, well, Charles Davis got him going to the Seahawks. This was obviously before the Frank Clark trade. It sort of makes sense. So I won't argue with this pick too much. They're probably definitely going defense. They've got some holes to fill with the departure of now Clark and Earl Thomas amongst other guys. They still got Bobby Wagner there, so they're not completely gutted. Sweat, like Jordan says, if he can overcome some of these ailments,
if he's there,
he's definitely
huge,
potential steal at 21 if the health stuff doesn't get him. So I won't disagree. I think Jordan agreed that they're probably going defense here. All right, that leaves the hated Ravens at 22, and they got them taking Marquise Brown, Oklahoma wide receiver. I definitely see them in the market in the receiver end when Michael Crabtree's one of your better receiver, and you're taking John Smith and some of those 2 and 3s off other teams, and you haven't really found a really number one guy. I think they probably go receiver here, whether it's Marquise Brown, someone else, maybe N'Keal Harry in this slot. Depends who they like. The darling of the combine, Metcalf, could be here as well. I guess it's who you like here. So what you agree they're probably going receiver?
I agree. Probably receiver. And like you said, I think it's just whoever they kind of like and who they think fits best. I think it would be ironic they end up with Marquise Brown, being that it is Antonio Brown's cousin. So I think that would kind of work out for them to have his cousin play Pittsburgh twice a year. But yeah, I think it's just whoever they feel is best for them.
Yep. So I think they take receiver. We can it's semantics to kind of go over which one, but so I won't disagree with Charles Davis too much there. That leads us to pick number 23. That's the Houston Texans. They're a team sort of on the rise. I like Bill O'Brien as the coach there. They got pieces in play. Deshaun Watson is kind of proven me wrong and is a very good NFL quarterback at this point. And the pick here, according to Charles Davis, is going to be Greg Little, the Mississippi tackle. I could see that when you have some offensive weapons. You want to buy your quarterback and running backs time to do something. So probably a safe pick. I think they're set at receiver with your Fullers and your Hopkins. Running back, they got a guy in Deonta Foreman who hasn't really had a chance to really take the reins with Lamar Miller being there, but it's probably time to start getting younger at the running back position. I don't think they take a running back here. I just don't think this draft has enough good ones to warrant that. So I could see an O-lineman here to protect those offensive weapons and make stuff happen. Their defense is pretty solid. You still got a J.J. Watt as the quarterback on the defensive side of the ball. And their corners are pretty good. So I think they go O-line here. Whether that's Little or another lineman, depending how the things fall out. But I'll agree with Charles Davis there as well.
Yeah, I think they probably go line. They have weapons. Just start protecting them. And defensively, with Clowney and J.J. Watt, you've got, your back end doesn't have to be great when you're giving the quarterback, less than 2 seconds to get the ball off. So I'd go line here.
So we both agree it's going to be a lineman at 23. That brings us to pick 24 in the Los Angeles Raiders. And here's the first, according to Charles Davis, here's the first running back off the board. And this year's running back class, let's be real, it leaves a lot to be desired. When you think about last year's running back classes, with Barkley, Sony Michel, even Philip Lindsay, Nick Chubb, Philip Lindsay, an undrafted running back who turned out to be pretty good. I know I'm forgetting a few people, but last year's running back class was really loaded, and this year's we don't even know. There was no doubt that Saquon was a game changer, number one back. There isn't that even anywhere close to that. Saquon Barkley's don't come along that often. It's not fair to this class to compare them to him. But there's no one that really even jumps off this page. If you ask 10 different guys who the best running back in this year's draft, you might get potentially 8 different names, and that's not necessarily a good thing because no one really comes to the forefront. Charles Davis has the first one going here to the Raiders in the form of Josh Jacobs out of Alabama. I'm not a big Josh Jacobs guy. I'm not even sure the Raiders pick a running back at this slot. I'm not saying they don't want a running back. Unless Gruden absolutely loves.
Well, I think the Raiders do really like Jacobs.
Yeah.
I just have a hard time. Bama running backs, usually do not perform well. Yeah, I think I just don't like giving the reins to a guy who didn't take the reins in college. He was kind of in a running back by committee. And Alabama runs a running back by committee. There's not, if a guy gets hot, he stays in. It's just constantly fresh legs. So he's not beat up, but we also haven't seen him play, full games where he takes on the full load. So I think if it's just tough to put, make that your running back, your guy, when we haven't even seen him really be that in college. He has the potential, but we haven't been able to see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go off the grid here. I say the Raiders right here don't take a running back, and I think they go corner and grab one of the corners that are still on the board, whether that's Williams, Murphy, DeAndre Baker. I think that's they go and grab a corner.
I think you could see it. I think they do go Jacobs. I know they do like Jacobs.
We'll see. This is why we're going to have fun watching the draft. So we would anyway, but now we'll have even more fun. Number 25 is the pick, and that's the Eagles. Charles Davis has Jonathan Abram, the safety out of Mississippi State. I definitely will say this, Jordan. I think they're definitely going secondary of some kind. Yeah. It could even be a corner rather than a safety. Again, depending on who's still on the board with the Williams, Baker, and Murphy trio. So it could be Abram, the safety, or it could be one of those three corners, depending on who's left. But I think the Eagles are definitely going secondary. Now, they still got some running back issues, but I also read that they love Josh Jacobs as well for whatever reason. So Jacobs might be slotted here potentially, especially if the Raiders don't take him. But if they don't take a running back, I think the Eagles are definitely going. I think it's one of two positions. It's either going to be one of these running backs or they're going safety corner, secondary type guy here. Yeah,
I think you see probably Abram being the best safety kind of in the draft. If he's still there, put him next to Malcolm Jenkins. I think they're already a good defense. They're pretty much set most places. I think you would just bolster your secondary with a guy like Abram. So I think he makes the most sense, like you said, if Jacobs isn't there.
Yep. So that brings us to pick number 26. Dexter Lawrence is the selection by Charles Davis for the Colts, the Clemson D tackle. The Colts kind of had a rough beginning under Frank Reich and then really turned the thing around, got into the playoffs. They didn't last long, but, they're a fairly young team. Luck looks like he's his original self post-injury, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. They have T.Y. Hilton, but I don't think they've really found that other guy. And, we can make an argument that T.Y. Hilton's not necessarily a number one receiver. So I could see them not going defense here, but actually grabbing one of these wide receivers, depending on who's still on the board, especially if a lot don't get picked earlier than this. They may go receiver and give Luck another weapon to add to T.J. Hilton. I think they found their running back in Marlon Mack and even in Nyheim Hines as a serviceable backup. So I think it's going to be either defense or it's going to be a wide receiver if they go offense. What do you think?
I don't think they go receiver. I think they like who they have. I think they do probably go defense and probably up front. They have linebackers. They're pretty good in the secondary. I think Dexter Lawrence makes a lot of sense there. Or I think they really just go with, whoever they really like up front. But I think Dexter Lawrence or whatever D lineman, DN type guy is there, I think they roll with.
If for some reason Montez Sweat drops down to at this level, I think the Colts definitely scoop him up unless the medical reports are just that bad where they just don't think he may be serviceable. So that brings us to pick number 27, the Raiders again. Yeah. Apparently they own the first round here. And they got the Raiders selecting Byron Murphy, the corner from Washington. He's a guy I like, and I wouldn't mind him wearing black and gold for 2019. But they got him going to the Raiders here. I really can't argue that pick. If he's still on the board at 27, probably a safe venture for Gruden to make that choice, and probably where they go.
I think they end up with probably with a corner here. I think it just really whoever's there. I think at this point you're probably going to see one or two already gone. So I think if they do take Jacobs, it's really just the best available corner.
Yeah. And pick number 28 belongs to the L.A. Chargers. I almost said San Diego. They're going with the baby blues at home. I got to admit, I like those. And Charles Davis has them selecting the guy who's, I think, got the best name in this draft. It's just fun to say it. Rock Your Sin. And that's just fun to say. You don't even have to be a player. Just walk around and say Rock Your Sin. It rhymes with moccasin. No relation. The Temple cornerback. I'm going to be honest with you. With the Chargers being on the West Coast, I don't know all the inside stuff about them. I saw one mock draft, not this one with Charles Davis. I saw another mock draft that had them taking a quarterback here at 28, maybe a successor to Phillip Rivers. I don't think they do that yet. And they definitely don't do it at 28, let's put it that way. So I guess I could see this pick. There's other people that don't believe that Melvin Gordon is that number one back, but I don't see them taking a running back, and I don't see them with this year's running back class. They're not going to take someone here when you have a Melvin Gordon. So probably a safe bet with the corner. They might take, depending on who else falls down to them. You got Devin Bush still on the board. I could see Devin Bush going to the Chargers and pick number 28 rather than 30 where Charles Davis has him slotted. And according to this, Charles Davis says the Chargers like Rock Ya-Sin better than DeAndre Baker, who he has going to the Seattle Seahawks at 29. So let's kind of talk about both these picks at once. We got two corners, kind of a little bit of a cornerback run if you believe in Charles Davis' draft. He has three corners here going in a row, 27, 28, and 29. Murphy, Ya-Sin, and Baker in that order. I could see that, maybe not in that order, but I could see all three of these teams picking corners. I think Seattle at 29 is definitely in the market for secondary help. They're a little depleted now on the back end. And DeAndre Baker on many people's boards is actually the best corner potentially. So at 29, Pete Carroll probably tabs him there. Do you see it shaking out any differently, Jordan?
No, with the Chargers, I think they're tough because they really don't have any holes.
Yeah.
They're pretty solid everywhere. You have Casey Hayward at cornerback. I think Rock Ya-Sin makes sense, being he's kind of a developmental type corner. He's big, physical, kind of has everything
He's
you want.
only played 1 year of college football on the Division I level. So
he has everything you want in a guy that can develop into a lockdown corner. He's just not there yet, so I think it makes sense they're not at a need. He's not going to have to step up and be locked down right away. You have Case Hayward. He's a guy you can let watch and let get in certain formations and really learn and develop. I think that makes sense, a lot of sense there. I think they could still go with a guy like DeAndre Baker, who's kind of the opposite, who's slightly undersized, but is polished and during the season, during the college football year, was probably the best corner in football. And kind of most teams had a hard time throwing on him. I think it just really depends. Do you want a guy to kind of work on, or do they want a guy that's pretty much ready that might not have as high of a ceiling?
Now, the other thing I'll say here with all three of these picks at 27, 28, and 29 with the Raiders, Chargers, and Seahawks, I could also see, we haven't seen really any of the receivers come off this board really yet. And all three of these teams, maybe not the Raiders now with them having Brown and signing Williams. They'll probably bypass a receiver at this point. But I could see the Chargers at 28 and definitely the Seahawks at 29 grabbing one of the first one or two receivers to get picked. When you think of the Seahawks, you got Doug Baldwin as a number one, who's now starting to get hurt and nicked up and missing time every year. I think it's one of their need positions. And so I wouldn't be shocked if rather than DeAndre Baker, they take a receiver, whether that's N'Keal Harry or, maybe they go Metcalf based on the combine performance and cross their fingers. But you know what? I'm going to say, at 29, Seattle either goes with this corner or they take a flyer on the best receiver still on the board.
Yeah, I think Seattle needs receivers. That's the thing that is tough, but they also need a lot of help defensively. And you just, they're just in a tough situation. Do you help out your kind of really depleted defense, or do you help Russell Wilson, who you just paid, the highest contract ever?
I think with that contract, it makes me lean towards them grabbing him a weapon. That way he can't complain like, yeah, you paid me, but what? I don't have much groceries in the fridge to cook with. So I think the Seahawks step out and grab the best receiver on their draft board with that 29th pick. That leaves us to again Green Bay at pick 30. I think they're going to go defense again here, and I actually kind of agree with this pick that Charles Davis got slotted to him, and that's Devin Bush, the linebacker from Michigan. If he's there, I think Green Bay, the Clay Matthews era is over. He's gone. Their linebackers, I can't actually name one of them anymore, so I think they have to rebuild those linebacker cores, and they got to get younger again. And maybe if a guy like Devin Bush is there, they tab him there to reload at that linebacker position.
Yeah, I think if Devin Bush is there, you really can't not pick him. I don't think Devin Bush will be there. I think he gets picked much earlier. I think you really take either best defensive talent or they need help running back wise. They really don't have a running back. So if they do like a guy other than
they got Jamal Williams, they got,
I just don't I don't think they have a guy. If they really like a guy like Mike Montgomery, I think it's
David Montgomery
out of Iowa State. They really like him. I think you could see them take a running back early. I just think it's either him or best defensive talent, really, pretty much whatever position. I think they need a lot of help on defense.
Yeah, Devin Bush has been a guy kind of mentioned with the Steelers. The Steelers kind of have an interest, so it'll be interesting to see. According to this mock, he would be available to the Steelers at 20 rather than Williams. I'm kind of really set on them getting a decent corner. I know they got Joe Hayden, they got Steven Nelson, but it would be nice to have 3 halfway decent corners rather than a bunch of question marks. So, but if Bush is still there at 20, I've heard the Steelers and him be mentioned in the same sentence, so we'll see how that even plays out. So pick number 31 is the Los Angeles Rams, the Super Bowl runner-up, and they got Garrett Bradbury, a center from North Carolina State, going there. I can't argue. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know a lot about Garrett Bradbury, but if he's the best center on the board, and that's something the Rams need to upgrade, probably not a bad time to go ahead. And if he's got a first-round grade, grab this guy. I think defensively, I think the Rams are in really good shape. The question mark now with the Gurley stuff and arthritis and knee injuries and whatnot, I don't know if they go and pick a running back at 31. So this might be the pick, on the offensive line. If Goff is going to be their guy, get him some protection up front. Gets another guy opening up a hole potentially for a healthy Gurley potentially. So probably a safe pick. I don't think the Rams are going to be going after defense early. So it's going to be either an offensive weapon or a lineman. I could see the Rams here if some of these wide receivers don't get selected early and there's still, a bunch left on the board. Maybe the Rams grab one of those type of guys. I know they got some guys there, but those guys aren't getting any younger. Maybe they grab one of these young guys at receiver. How do you see that going?
I think you go line. I think, like you saw in the Super Bowl, they couldn't do anything. They had no time whatsoever. I think you probably go line unless, like you said, they find a receiver they really like. With Cooks getting older, I think if there's still a guy there that they're kind of in love with, you could see him go there, but I think they do end up going with a line because, they have weapons. Offensively, it's not lack of weapons. I think they had a decent line all year. They won line of the year, but I think you saw late in the year, or in the Super Bowl, the team, the Patriots game plan for them, and they really didn't have an answer.
They got exposed.
So I think you probably go line or, an offensive, whoever you think the biggest difference maker is.
Yep. So that leads us to our final pick of round one. I hate to say it. This hurts. Your Super Bowl champ, New England Patriots. They got. I don't agree with this pick, although they do need some offensive line help. So the pick that Charles Davis got is Dalton Reisner, Kansas State tackle. I guess I could see him take a lineman, but this is kind of a part of the draft where Bill Belichick likes to get a little off the cuff. I've seen a bunch of mocks, different ones, that have him taking a quarterback in this spot. I don't know if they do that, but I've seen anywhere from Will Grier to Ryan Finley at this spot. I've seen in one mock, I've seen Drew Lock get picked by the Patriots at 32, according to that mock. I don't know if they go quarterback. If they don't go QB, I think they probably go offensive lineman. They're pretty solid. They might go with a guy up front on the defensive line. They've lost some guys to free agency. So I'm going to say this. I think they either pick a front defensive lineman, hand in the dirt type of guy, or offensive lineman. I don't think Belichick, Belichick's famous for just trading out. If he doesn't really like anyone here and thinks he can still get a guy a little further back, Belichick's famous for just trading back and getting another pick kind of close to each other. So I say they pick an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, or they trade out of this spot.
Yeah, I don't know. New England's always tough to kind of figure out what they're doing. I think they could go probably receiver here. I think you could go quarterback if the guy they like is there. They like to build through the trenches, and they almost always have a good offense and defensive line, so I think you could definitely see that. I think it's wide open. I don't think there's one position or one area they could go. Yeah. They really don't need help because traditionally they play well no matter kind of who is there. Yeah. So I really have no idea who they're going to go.
They're always a wild card, especially at this part of the draft.
I think if one of the top tier tight ends kind of falls, I think to them, I think you could see them take a tight end there, especially with Gronk leaving. And the last, I think, tight end they picked in the first round was probably Gronk or Hernandez. So I think if you see a guy, a tight end, slip, I think you could see them take him.
Yep, I agree. So now that we've kind of completed what our thoughts on the first round, which is all we're going to do as far as the draft goes, let's talk about the card aspect, Jordan. I've said on the show that the 2018 NFL draft class in cards was one of the best we'll ever maybe see in terms of especially card heavy offense. You got guys like Barkley, Chubb, Sony Michel, Phillip Lindsay. You got receivers, like Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton. I did a show where I listed 40 guys that were potential like superstars or Pro Bowl players. When you look at this year's 2019 draft class, as we've already said, it's super defensive heavy. Yeah. And if you know anything about football cards, defensive guys never live up to their value when it comes to cards. It could be a superstar on the field, but cards-wise, you even look at guys like Joey Bosa, Luke Kuechly. They're great players. No one can, even J.J. Watt. But no one really. Their cards don't match up to offensive guys of similar stature. It's always kind of been like that. I don't think it's anybody's fault in particular. With this being a super heavy defensive draft, I think card-wise, it's going to be kind of I hate to use the word down, but it's definitely going to be kind of a low-key year. When you look at some of the offensive guys, even the best guys aren't aren't earth-shattering. Obviously your quarterbacks always sell. Your Kyler Murrays, maybe Drew Lock, depending on where he goes. And
well, I think like you said, defensively guys don't sell as well. But I think the thing that does help is a lot of your big-time defensive guys are big sack guys. So you're going to get production not just, playing well. As sacks, sacks do show up and look good. I think offensively you're still going to be all right. I think the number of quarterbacks in the draft is pretty good. Especially with Murray's cards, I'm going to assume are going to be nuts.
Yeah, I think the two hottest guys card-wise, not necessarily the best players, I think, obviously, and I think you'll agree, there's going to be Murray and Haskins are going to lead the pack.
And I think the other thing that might really help the cards, do well this year is receivers. You have a lot of good receivers, and you have kind of interesting guys. And I think Metcalf has really grown a pretty big following after the Combine. And I think his stuff's probably going to do well just because people love those Combine hero guys that really light up the Combine where they're superhero-like numbers. And I think his stuff's going to get really, Marquise Brown is another guy. I think he's kind of got a personality, Hollywood Brown. I think there's just receivers. I think that'll kind of help. I
think you agree when you look at this year's class to last year's class.
There's not. I mean, other than Murray, I don't think you have a guy where you're like, wow, that. Last year you had 4 quarterbacks that people were nuts for.
If you open last year's product, it's really still this year's product. Truthfully, if you open this year's product, you had so many chances to hit somebody of significance. I think when you open 2019 football products, you might hit some defensive superstars, but those won't save the day as they
like you said. This year you're probably really hoping for a Murray or Haskins or one of the receivers. And other than that, I think it's, there's not a whole lot. I mean, there's good guys, but like value and hype wise, it's not nearly like last year. Especially with the quarterback debate, you had 3 guys that people really think are franchise level quarterbacks, and you have a guy in Saquon Barkley who running backs rarely go high, and he was a no doubt, top 3 pick. As talented as he was, I think you don't really have that. I mean, running back wise this year, you pull a running back. Whether he's the best running back or the worst, it's not a good pick.
I'll be honest with you. I don't even know. Even no matter where they get drafted, I don't think they're guaranteed starters. Even I think they got to go in and win a job. Yeah. You knew when Barkley and even Sony Michel in New England, you knew if they lived up to even half the hype that they had, they were going to win those jobs. And I don't think your Jacobs and your Montgomerys are those guys. I think even the teams that are picking them are kind of just crossing their fingers and hoping they hit with them. So I don't think they come in and they're just handed the keys to the backfield. So I think even pulling those guys early is kind of a wait and see. Yeah. When you pulled the Barkley, you knew you had something there.
Well, I think that's the thing with cards for this class is I think these guys, you're not going to get instant value. I think out of a lot of them, I think it's more of a thing where you open a lot and you just hold on and wait and hope these guys turn out. But I don't think, like you said, there's not a whole lot of guys you pull and open and you're like, you hit something huge.
Yeah. So I think, I hate to say it, I hope I'm wrong. But, and I don't think it's fair. It's almost not fair because to me, that 2018 class card-wise was just the best class we've seen, and I did a show where I said it was the best class ever, and a lot of people agreed. We had Drew Herndon on from Let Me Get That Potograph.
Are you saying talent wise or card wise?
Almost both.
I don't know about talent-wise,
definitely card wise for sure.
The 2014 draft was sick.
Yeah. Well, card wise, it's definitely right there, and I don't know what matches up to it. Now, obviously, time will tell. They're all were in their rookie year. A lot of them are projected, but you know with football, an injury can happen. They fall in love with a new young guy, and they fall out of favor. Yep. So, what one guy looks like a stud, and all of a sudden he's on the scrap heap. So, you never know, but that's the fun of the draft. I know one of our traditions for those listening, is every year at the draft we order some pizza and wings, and we watch the draft. It's always fun. It's an event in itself. We'll obviously be doing that this year again, and I know a lot of people out there enjoy the draft probably just as much as we do. I know the draft now is going around from city to city, and I told Jordan here that being Steeler fans, the next time or the first time it makes it to Pittsburgh, we're definitely going to have to make a road trip.
I wonder where they do it. You know what I mean? Because they do it kind of at a monument.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think where do you do it in Pittsburgh?
Maybe that's a good question. Maybe Carnegie Mellon Museum or one of the museums. I don't know. Yeah. It is an interesting. We'll have to wait and see. But wherever it is, I definitely want to go.
Hopefully it's about 5 years when Roethlisberger's been done for a couple of years and they have that early pick.
Well, I don't want them to have an early pick because that means we have a crappy year.
Well, they're gonna have. They're not gonna be able to draft a guy in the third round at quarterback to take. You got to have a couple bad years. Your franchise guys almost always come from usually early first rounders. So.
Yeah, I agree. I really don't know if the next guy's even on the roster yet.
I don't think he is.
A lot of people like Mason Rudolph. I actually see him, especially if Roethlisberger signs a new deal for 3-4 years. I think he winds up on someone else's roster, maybe via trade. The thing I just read, Jordan, I think you read it too, is they're trying to get this deal done before the draft.
Oh, really?
Which makes me wonder if they have a deal in place for either Dobbs or Rudolph.
Yeah.
Maybe they're talking about moving up. Maybe they're packaging Rudolph and a pick to move up to get a Devin White, let's say. So we'll have to see. But that's the fun of football. That's the fun of the draft. Jordan, I know I don't have to thank you because, but this was awesome. I hope everyone enjoyed some of the insight. Whether you agreed or disagreed with what we said, we hope you enjoyed the content we brought to you. And maybe we'll have to make this a tradition. We'll do the draft preview show every year, and if maybe we'll even bring a third guy in, depending on who it is. So, that being said, I want to thank my son Jordan. I really just, if he said no, I was just going to force him to do it. So I'm thankful that he said yes. So again, I hope you enjoyed the segment, and we'll see you later. Enjoy the draft. Have a business or event you'd like to promote or highlight? Become a show sponsor. For a very affordable cost, we can highlight your company or business, either on the podcast or on our website or both. So whether you're a dealer, a breaker, or any other business, we really would love to work with you. Contact us at any of our social medias or email us at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. That's sportscardnationpc, all one big word, @gmail.com. We look forward to working with you. For over 25 years, Newman Sports Cards has set the standard in customer service in the sports card industry, including same-day shipping. They've added supplies and some wax products to their already great arsenal of rookie cards, game-used cards, autos, and graded cards. Check their fully searchable website out by Googling Newman Sports Cards. It's the first thing that comes up. Click on that link. Or follow them on the social medias at Newman_sportscards at Instagram or at Twitter at Nooms Sports Cards. Or give them a call or text at 315-491-0239. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Sports Card Nation. Again, want to thank everyone along this journey with us. 23 episodes in. It's been a real pleasure to do the show. It keeps getting more enjoyable as the show grows. Obviously, I think that's a natural ascension. With more listeners, you enjoy what you do and bring in that entertainment to those that do listen. Again, I know I sound like a broken record, but we always have new listeners, so I don't I always feel like if I don't say it every episode, some will hear it and some new people won't, and I don't want to be unappreciative. So I'll say it again. If you're listening to the show for the 23rd time or the first time, thank you very much. You know, time is a valuable commodity in today's day and age, and giving us that hour or two to listen to the show is nothing we sneeze at. So again, a sincere thank you from the bottom of my heart. We appreciate it here. The show was fun to do, having my son on the show. I hope you enjoyed it. Pretty intelligent kid. Again, I'm a little biased there. Excited for him. He's getting ready here in a couple months to go away to college to play college football his own self. So that'll be fun as a dad to watch your kid chase his dreams and go out there and play on that level is it's hard to even put in words. I'm just really ecstatic for him, and to kind of go off to college and kind of make a life for himself and a future for himself. And, dads out there and moms out there that might be listening probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So fun having him on today. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed the banter between me and him as well. And with all the events of the past week, life is a precious thing, whether you're a parent or not a parent. Family, friends. Tell your friends, your family, you love them if you do. Give them a hug. Let them know how you feel. You just never know. And with it being Easter week and losing somebody, again, just let people know how you feel about them. You never can go wrong when you do that. So, with that being said, I'm going to close it on a positive. God bless everyone. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in a week.
You've been listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. Join host John Newman next week as he gives you another jam-packed episode of all things related to the sports card hobby. And a little extra fun, too. Don't forget to check out the show on Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast.